As I've mentioned before, I was born in Quetzaltenango, Guatemala. Quetzaltenango, it's funny. I've read you guys' comments, and I see, I see the spelling of it sometimes. I'm gonna say pronouncing it or spelling it for Spanish speakers, it's hard. Now, for non-Spanish speakers, it will be even harder. It is pronounced Quetzaltenango, and it's in Guatemala. Here's a picture of it. Now, one thing when I was born there in 1980, just to be honest, I was born there in 1980, and then at the time, my mom started working for the university. Here's the CUNOC, Centro Universitario de Occidente. It's part of the San Carlos de Guatemala, so that's why I added the symbol San Carlos here at the side. That's the university. Now, in the 80s, like I said, I was born in 1980. The 80s was a rough time. It was a very, very rough time. The government didn't want people to speak up, so they will come over it. And then most people that were speaking up were professors or students at the university. So the government will come over it and kill people. It will come and shoot them or put bombs. As a matter of fact, before I was born, my mom was taking classes there at university, and then her classes got canceled for one night. The teacher just did not show up. So she decided to go home. Like, oh, well, the teacher did not show up. She goes home. The next day she comes over and there was a bomb that exploded in the classroom where my mom was. So I was really close to die before I was even born. Like I said, it was a rough time. Now it's not. But like I said, in the 80s, the government didn't want people to speak up, so they would just come in and shut them down. Literally shut them down. So the funny thing is that I lived there from 1980 when I was born up until 89. Like I said, the 80s, if you guys Google it, it was a rough era. Well, not only the Canuck, the one reason why I also added this because growing up, even though it's the university and people go and study, because my mom was there. She was working, she was a secretary there. My mom was there many hours. I would come sometimes after school, and that was my playground. In front of it, there's the zoo, so I would go and play by the zoo. But then I would come over it, and I'm a little kid. I'm a little kid, probably like 7 years old at the time, 6, 7, I don't know, running around the university, just playing around. So seeing this building reminds me of my childhood. Like I said, it was my playground. The university was my playground. Now, growing up in there, my mom wanted us to be, I'm Catholic, and my mom raised us uh, through the Catholicism here. And I'm showing you guys a picture when I got baptized. And that's my picture on the left. My godparents, I think that's the only time I saw them. I know never mind, my godfather, I know he was, I think, a doctor. And we went over one time, we needed help. And so I went to see him one time just because I was hurt. My godmother, I think they both passed away, or just she just passed away. I'm not quite sure what happened to them, but they were there for the picture at least. Then my first communion, I got it done there, and then one another thing too. My mom used to tell us a lot was, I want you to pay attention in school. I want you to learn. So here's a picture that on the left. You guys can see me when I'm in kindergarten first. Now, I said kindergarten first because my teacher there, she had in the same classroom, she had both grades. So she would come and I was in kindergarten, so she would tell us the kindergartners like, "Hey, go there, play around with, colored," or she would give us things to do, and then she would start teaching the first grade. I would get bored. I would get bored and I would start paying attention to the first graders. And then when she asked questions and then she's like, "Does anybody have the answer for this?" I will raise my hand. I would raise it, and then sometimes like if they didn't know the answer, she would call up on me, and then I was answering because I was paying attention. I wanted to learn. So in the middle of the year, she calls my mom and she says, "I need you," because over there we buy our own books, our textbooks. So she calls my mom and says, "I need you to buy him his first grade textbooks because he's gonna finish first grade in the same year." So I was so excited. Kindergarten and first in one shot. I thought that's how school went. So my plan was I'm gonna do second and third grade the following year, and in 3 years I'm gonna graduate out of elementary. Well, things don't go that way, right? Things don't go like that. So the following year I only had second grade. The following year I only had third grade, and so on and so forth. My mom will always tell us you gotta do your homework, and then she took a picture of this on the right. As you guys can see, I was doing my homework, got tired, I passed out. I know homework can be tiring. Homework can be tiring. So I understand when my students tell me, "Oh man, I was really tired of my homework." I understand. And then I tell them, "Don't leave your homework for the last minute because you don't know what's going to happen. Still got to do your homework though." My kids, I encourage them, you got to do your homework in advance because you don't know what's going to happen. It can be very tiring. I understand. Now, I did pay a lot of attention. One thing that I did like a lot ever since I was a kid was mathematics. In fourth grade, that was the last grade that I finished in Guatemala. In fourth grade, I was already learning algebra. And I was actually doing well. I did like it. Like I said, I was good in fourth grade. So that was it. I finished fourth grade, but then for fifth grade, we moved to the US. And then when we moved here, the first school that well, actually, place where I started living was, if you guys are not familiar with the area, it's right there by 58, Highway 58 and Martin Luther King. There's a street called South Brown. And then actually, this is the 225 South Brown Street. That's a duplex. That's where I came to live. We would live in the duplex behind, because like I said, it's two apartments there. And then the train track on the back, oh man, everything shook. When the train passed, everything shook and we could not hear anything. But that's where I went. That was my where I came to live. And my elementary school, the elementary school that I went to, it's called Fremont. Here, let me show you guys a picture of Fremont. It was a rough school. I'm not gonna deny it, it was rough. My vice principal, Vincent Brothers, he got in trouble later on. He's actually in jail, but he was very mean. Vincent Brothers, he was my vice principal. He was very mean. I didn't quite like him. But then here in school, like I said, this is where I went for sixth grade. I started here in the US. I started going in fifth grade, and then I came and they're like, "Oh, you're an English learner," because obviously I only spoke Spanish. You're an English learner, so your math is going to be pre-algebra. Remember, I was already doing algebra, and then they moved me to pre, which means before, right? Pre-algebra. So they were teaching me how to add and subtract and very simple math. And I remember Mr. Vasquez here in Fremont. I went up to him and I told him, "Mr. Vasquez, I want to learn math. This is easy for me." And then he told me, "It might be easy for you, but not for your classmates. And I'm going to go at the level of your classmates. If you want me to teach you higher math, help me bring your classmates up to your level, and then I can start teaching you guys more math." Well, we were not able to bring him up to level, and I came and I said, "Well, forget it. I'm not going to do your work." So I didn't teach him, and I didn't learn anything math that year. Obviously, I got straight A's. It was easy math for me, or at least math wise, it was easy. But they didn't want to move me up. Then I went to Compton Junior High, and in there I was still in pre-algebra. So fifth grade and sixth grade, I did pre-algebra. Even though again in fourth grade I did algebra, and then and here in Compton they were giving me low math classes too. And then I would go over and ask, "Can you guys move me up?" And they're like, "No, we cannot move you up because you're an English learner." And I remember I would come over. Here's a picture of my friends. I remembered I would come and tell them like, "Man, I'm good in math," and they don't want to move me up. And then, like I said, they were just giving me low classes. And then they told me in Compton, they said, "Oh, the thing is that you don't speak English, so we cannot move you up because the higher math teachers, they are English speakers." Well, guess what? My teacher did not speak Spanish either, so it was all in English. And I remember telling them, "Hey, why don't you move me up? If I just learn one thing through the whole year, believe me, gonna be one thing that I learned, one more thing that I learned this year." So they didn't move me up. They kept me in pre-algebra. And I started getting bored. I started getting bored, and then my way of dressing, my way of behaving changed. Now, here I am. This is me in junior high. And because I was bored, I started talking back. There was even a teacher, Mrs. Costello. I feel bad for her. And I apologize, Miss Costello, if you're watching this video. Sorry. Sorry. Mrs. Costello used to make her cry. I was so bored that every day I would not stop until she cried. Like I said, I started talking back. I started misbehaving. But the reason why is because I was bored. As you guys can see, I started dressing baggy, my hair slicked back. I know nowadays you guys have moco de gorila or a bunch of things that you guys can actually do for your hair to be back. At the time we did not. At the time was Aquanet or um three flowers, tres flores. That's what I used to wear on my hair. And then I even used to come over and then do it the night before. Okay. But anyways, got me back to my story here. Like I said, in Compton, they didn't move me up. So then after that, obviously I went to high school and I went to BHS. Bakersfield High School was my high school. So I went to BHS and then they again put me in pre-algebra. And I asked, I need to move up. And they were like, no, no, no. This is your level. They don't understand. Again, what they told me, the same excuse. The higher math class teachers, they don't speak Spanish. So we cannot move you up. And again, my math teacher at a low level only spoke English. So the excuse was you're an English learner. You cannot move up. My mom even came and asked, if he wants to move up. And then again, I wanted to be moved. But no, pre-algebra was it. They came and they gave me what they call freshman year. They called it uh, foundations freshman. So that means that it's a foundations class, pre-algebra class that only the freshman students take. So it has a code. And then for my sophomore year, I took foundations 10-12, which is a foundations, pre-algebra, but only 10 to 12 students take it. So that was my second math class. And then for my junior year, they gave me what they call Math 912. Math 912 basically means any class that it's offered from ninth grade to 12th grade. And they gave me foundations. It was a different code. So I on record, I took 3 years of math. But again, they were all pre-algebra. And then they didn't move me up. So I came over and I was like, I want to learn. I want to learn. So I became a TA, I became an assistant at the library because I had access to books. I had access to the textbooks. And I'm not ashamed of saying it. I stole some math books. I went over it. I grabbed them, put them in my backpack, and walked away. I took him home because I started reading. I was like, but they don't want to teach me. They don't want to. I've been asking to learn. They don't want to teach me, so I'm going to learn. So I will go and read my math books at home. Now, I wouldn't understand the words. Again, I was an English learner, so I wouldn't understand the words, but I will see the numbers. Numbers are, you can understand them. I will read and I will see and I will assume like, oh, I think here they added. Oh, I think here they multiplied. I will start seeing the steps and then trying to figure out what was going on. Again, I couldn't read the words. But then I will come and be like, I think this is how these problems are done. Now, typical math book, it has, well, after some examples, it has some questions. And then the answers are on the back. The answers to the odd questions are on the back. So I will do the odd questions. I will come and work them out. I will check the answers on the back and I will see like whether I was right or I was wrong. If I was wrong, I will go double check my work and I will find my mistakes. But that's how I was learning. Like I said, they didn't want to teach me, so I started learning. I started doing it myself. And then again, the way I learned was just by seeing some examples. So I've always said, typical math teacher, I'm a math teacher, typical math teacher, it's at the front with a bunch of formulas, a bunch of things on the board, and a textbook on their hands. Because this is how many math teachers teach, right? They come over, they look at the examples on the textbook, they do them on the board, and they tell the students, all right, you do the rest. Like I said, many math teachers do that. Now, in my case, I don't blame them. And I tell them that the way a teacher teaches is the way the teacher learn. So that's how they learn. So that's how they're gonna teach you. In my case, I do examples. I even record my lectures and I have it on my YouTube channel, Mr. Leonzo. You guys can go in there and there's all my examples. I don't do many formulas. For those of you that also have me for math, you guys will see that I don't do many formulas. Instead, I just work the examples. But again, because that is how I learn. Remember the teachers that have the textbook in front of them, that's how they learn. I learned doing examples. So that's exactly what I do. Instead, I come over, my thing is let me give my students what we call notes, which are just questions. And then let me tell them how I do it. This is how they, this is how I do it. So this is how it gets done. Then I give them their homework and then they practice. Again, that's how I learn. But that's a different story. I don't want to get confused. So let me come back to the idea of I stole some books, right? So I started reading at home. In school again, pre-algebra. That's the highest I can get to in school. But at home I was reading. Then after high school, I decided to go to Baker College, and I go to the math department. And they asked me, "What's your major?" And I told them mathematics. I want to major in mathematics. The STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math. They looked at me and they said, "Are you sure? You should change your career. I don't think mathematics is for you." And I told them, "Yeah, this is what I want to learn." Now, let me explain what they meant because they were looking at my transcript. Let me tell you what they meant. This is the pathway. When you start in Algebra 1, you move on to geometry. After geometry, you can go to Algebra 2. After that, you're going to go to pre-calculus and then move on to calculus and then more math. The math department, the first class they consider mathematics is calculus. Anything else, they call that getting ready to learn mathematics. So they expect you to start in calculus or at least close to calculus if you're going to consider yourself a math person, a math, you want to study a math degree. In my case, I'm in pre-algebra. So I'm not even on this chart. Oh, Siri. Okay, so here we see on the left, we see algebra 1. I'm not even in algebra 1. I'm in pre-algebra. So they're looking at me and saying, "Oh my God, that's the highest you got to pre-algebra." So I totally understood what they meant. I totally, when they told me you should look into another career, I don't think mathematics for you. I told them, give me a test. Give me a test. And then they gave me a test to check my math, and I qualified to pre-calculus. So I'm interested, the interesting part is that from pre-algebra, I went to pre-calculus. So the algebras, geometry, honestly, I've never taken those classes. I just learned. I just learned them on my own. I can teach them. I can teach them. I know it pretty well. And then obviously I started pre-calculus, moved to calculus, and then so on and so forth. After that, after Bakersfield College, I went to Cal State Bakersfield. Cal State Bakersfield, that's where I went for my math degree. And I'm already a junior in there when I decided to go back to my junior high. I went to apologize to Miss Costello. And I was like, "Miss Costello, I'm so sorry. I felt really, really bad." She did remember me. When I walked in, obviously, she had me when I was in eighth grade. I'm walking in, I'm already in the university in Bakersfield, so I looked a lot different. When I went after school, I go to her classroom, all nervous. I knocked on her door. She was there. She told me to come in, and she's like, "Oh, yes, sir. How can I help you?" Obviously, she didn't recognize me, right? And then I looked at her and I was like, "Mrs. Costello, I'm not sure if you remember me." She looked at me and she's like, "Oh," and she called me by my first name. Yeah, I did apologize. And then she asked me, "What's up with you?" And I told her, "I'm in Cal State Bakersfield. I want to be a math teacher." She got happy. She got happy because she did see me when I was growing up, like the poverty that I went through. She's like, "I'm glad you're gonna do something. Just be careful because karma's gonna get you." Again, I apologize, and then I went back to my studies. I was studying to become a math person, so I was getting my bachelor's in math. Now, another person that I ran into when I was there in school was my high school counselor, Mrs. Lewis. And then I talked to her. Counselor's supposed to come over and help you graduate, help you for your future and stuff. And then I came in, I ran into her, and I asked her, "Mrs. Lewis," after a few minutes talking to her, I made her remember me. And I asked her, "Mrs. Lewis, I do have a question. Why is it that all the time that I asked for to move up, I never moved up? Then I also told her at that time I was studying mathematics. I was gonna get my degree in math, but then the highest that she put me into was pre-algebra. Instead of helping me, she did not. And I asked her, I do wonder, why is it that you never move me up? At the time, she looked at me and she said, you want the truth or what sounds nice? Honestly, that I was like, whoa, something hard's coming. And I told her, you know what? I'll take it as it is. Give it to me as it is. I'll take the truth. Don't sugarcoat it. Just straight up. Tell me the truth. Why is it that you did not move me up? And then she said, well, at the time, you were poor. You came from a low income family. Honestly, what I thought of you is just that you're going to be a farm worker. You were an English learner, low income, so you were just going to be a farm worker. So I didn't need you. I didn't push you to learn more math because all you needed to do was learn how to count the boxes or buckets that you were going to be working for the day. You just needed to know how to count, so we put you in classes that you just needed to count. Honestly, right now, I can tell you guys it hurts. It hurts when they tell you to your face. I looked at her. I really wanted to punch her in the face. I really did. But at the same time, I told her I was gonna take the truth as it was, and then I told her that it hurt. It did hurt. Just hearing that. But at the same time, I was glad that I did not let her push me down. At the time, I was like I said, I was in Cal State Bakersfield. I was getting my math degree. And then I told her that it was hard. She said she was proud of me that I moved up and everything, but it was sad. I'm glad that I can say that not only I went to Costa Baker, so I got my bachelor's, which by the way, they have a picture of me. They took a picture of my graduation. I'm not gonna show you guys a picture because I'm gonna leave it as homework. You guys can go over it. It's in the Science 3 building in Costa Baker, so in the Science 3 building in the third floor. You guys go over it right there in the hallways. There's a picture of my when I graduated. I I'm really really proud of my effort at Cal State Baker. So I got my bachelor's there, and then I even got my master's in mathematics from Western Kentucky University. So I went up. Remember, I was the one kid that was not allowed to take anything higher than pre-algebra. Even though I did algebra before, I was not allowed to do that. So I moved up. I came over and then I kept on pushing. I learned mathematics on my own, and then my teachers in the universities, I say universities in plural because Cal State University of Bakersfield and Western Kentucky University, they were able to polish me a little bit more. And now I can proudly say that I have a master's degree in mathematics. Not only that, but I now not only I teach for Kern High School District, that's where I do my main job, Kern High School District. I also do teach at Taft College. I'm proud that I came and out, even though I was put down, I was able to keep on pushing. I went up. I accomplished my goals. I wanted to be a teacher, and then I did that. I accomplished what I wanted. I always believe what Kobe Bryant used to say, and they say, prove them wrong. His mentality, the Mamba mentality, as you guys saw in my videos, I share a lot of his videos, I learn a lot of the mentality because that is the mentality that I told myself that I need to put in myself. I needed to push hard. Teachers didn't want to, well, my counselor didn't want teachers to teach me. Schools, some schools failed at me, not giving me the education, the math that I wanted. So I decided to get my own education. Now, as a teacher, I know that there's people that are with the same mentality, and believe me, I'm always looking for the one student that wants to learn and I'm willing to push them hard. I'm willing to come over. I wanna make sure that I teach the future. I always tell my students, I don't care about your grade. I just care about your knowledge. I don't want you guys to graduate not learning much. Instead, I want you to learn. The degrees will come later. That will be important later. Now, one thing I want to finish this, life is going to be hard. Life is going to treat you hard. There's going to be people that are going to put you down. There's people that are going to be in their mind, they're even going to call you dumb. I'm sorry to say it, but they're going to think low of you. It is your job whether you prove them right or you prove them wrong. Like I said, they're going to think bad of you. They're not going to expect much of you. They're going to ignore you. But again, it is up to you. Do you prove them right or you prove them wrong? Like I said, either the obstacle wins in life or you do.